Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
What's up, nerds? Welcome to another episode of the Multiverse Report. Tonight we are recapping the weeks and a few extra days nerdy news from Hell's Kitchen to Kajimi and everywhere in between. My name is Mike Gibson. With me as always is Steve Haller. What's up, Steve?
You're on a real Kajimi kick, my friend.
I only thought of it because we were just talking about Kajimi the other day.
Yep. Rage Against the Machine and Kajimi.
Yeah,
for anyone
that's
who
right.
doesn't know, Renegades by Rage Against the Machine may be the greatest cover album of all time. Go check it out.
Slaps.
If you want to hear the pre-roll where we waxed poetic about that for way too long, and that's why we're slightly delayed in starting, feel free to check out patreon.com/the Multiverse Report, and you'll get access to that because that's one of the things that you can do.
Yeah, sure will. Also, thank you for listening to us. We're recording on a Tuesday, which is 2 days after we normally record on Sunday nights. We knew we couldn't record Sunday night because we had each of us had a commitment, and then Monday came, and I was so mentally drained from my Monday and Sunday that I just couldn't do it. And I was like, Steve, it's just not going to happen tonight. I'm sorry, man. I just need to stare at a TV and not host anything.
Right.
Because the
my
energy
response
is different.
was, "Yeah, I hear you."
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Right.
So here we are. And I'm kind of glad we waited because we got one more story that broke today.
And a
Something
pretty
to talk
big
about.
one.
It's pretty big, and I'm very excited about it, and I can't wait to talk about it. Some people that I would enjoy talking about it with would be those who own and work at Funky Town Comics and Vinyl in Camillus, New York. The sponsor of this podcast gave us some comics to review this week. We'll be talking about a Marvel book called Time Slide, X-Men book.
Which number 2 is now out as well. As
number
of
2 is
last
out.
week.
Yeah.
This week.
Yes,
I don't know.
we have number 1.
Nobody knows what week anything is coming out anymore, strictly due to Diamond and whatever mess they're in. Yeah. So
Did we really? I can't remember at this point if we talked about it that they officially declared bankruptcy. Did we talk about how Diamond?
I don't think we did because that would have been that might have been this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, former monopolizer of comic book distribution, Diamond, has declared bankruptcy. Also saying that don't worry, services won't be interrupted, but if you talk to any independent comic book store owner, you know that service has been interrupted for quite some time. Funky Town specifically, is our comic store, has gotten very few of the Marvel books that they are supposed to be getting.
Right. I think
in the last few weeks.
It's been almost a month. I think they finally got a couple of books in last week, but including Time Slide that we're reviewing. But
that we'll be reviewing later.
If this had happened a year or two ago, before Lunar and Penguin kind of became a thing, the industry would be basically shut down.
Oh yeah. But some publishers started jumping during the pandemic because DC jumped during the pandemic.
Yep.
Because Diamonds said they were going to stop shipping comics. And a bunch of publishers, including DC, were like, well, we're still going to keep making comics, so I guess we have to find someone else to ship them for us.
They're not going anywhere. We're still making them. They need to get to somebody somehow. So
they need to go somewhere. So sorry, breaking our contract and going somewhere else. And now everyone should do that.
Yeah,
I think. I think it's going to really hurt the smaller indie publishers for sure, more than anybody else. Like, Marvel's, get their services getting interrupted, but they're not gonna hurt them financially enough that it's gonna damage them or anything like that. But
the big two, and even like Image, Dark Horse, like the bigger indies are gonna be fine. But some of you
got smaller imprints and smaller publishers and local places that really depend on sales to keep the lights on. So those are the ones that are going to get the most impacted, unfortunately, by this. But hopefully it leads to a more diverse distribution system for comic books in general, and not one company having a monopoly. So we do have a few cool stories to talk about tonight. Before we jump into those, now that most of the business is out of the way, I do want to hit something that isn't specifically nerd related, but is important to me, to give mention to the fact that we lost a incredible filmmaker, director, writer, visionary, completely original object of a human being. David Lynch passed away this past week at the age of 78. Complications due to emphysema, which he had for a long time. It's very sad because he had been diagnosed with emphysema in, I think, 2022, or like not too long ago. And he had stayed inside his house. He hadn't left his house for fear of contracting COVID or like another illness that could hamper that.
Anything to impact the hampered immune system.
Yep. And then he was forced to evacuate his house due to the LA fires, and that caused him to go downhill.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if you've never seen a David Lynch film, David Lynch is a guy who makes movies that will change the way you engage with film as a medium. Or most of his movies will. Most of his movies would do that. I haven't seen all of the movies that he has made. I've seen most of them. There's about 3, I think, that I haven't seen.
Same thing with TV.
Certainly with TV as well. Exactly. Like if you have ever seen the show Twin Peaks, he is the creator and directed all of the first season of episodes and the third season. He did some of the second season as well. Twin Peaks, a monumental television show for its time, huge cultural imprint. With that show, also films like Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, my personal favorite, Mulholland Drive. All 3 of those will challenge you and maybe haunt you, upset you in some ways.
Too tight and the nerd sphere. He did do the original Dune.
That's true. He did Dune, starring Kyle MacLachlan, which I have seen recently.
That is a movie.
The whole thing has affected me crazily because I have been I was really diving into his work independently of even thinking about him being sick or anything like that. Like I just starting earlier this month, I was like, I think I'm gonna rewatch that Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, like the movie that spun off, and I watched that, and I was like, no, I'm gonna keep going because I really like David Lynch stuff, and so I've been working my way through his body of work for a while, and then I watched Blue Velvet and woke up the next day and learned that he had passed away. So it was very strange colliding of stuff. I don't know. It's kind of, some things feel cosmic sometimes, and I don't know what significance that would have other than bringing him back into my life. Days before he passed away. But my personal favorite David Lynch film is Mulholland Drive. I think it's a masterpiece. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go and see it. Find a way to watch it. But one of those movies, sorry, I got sidetracked. One of those movies that I had watched before he passed away was the original Dune, which is very different from the Denis Villeneuve movies. You have seen the David Lynch Dune?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's both the Denis Villeneuve movies in one movie.
Yeah, and then some.
And it's only 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Wild.
Wild. They pack a lot in there. For better or for worse. It was pure 1984 effects in all ways, shapes, and forms. Yeah.
Yep. It was I think part of the problem was they're clearly trying to do too much
100%.
in a small amount of time, and I think also it was positioned as like this is going to be the next Star Wars,
right?
And it definitely didn't live up to that, unfortunately. I think through no fault of Lynch's himself.
No, but
I think he really was a fan of the material and, really was trying to make a good movie, and it was just got away from him.
He ended up with the third act of a trilogy problem in the first act.
Yeah,
just shove it all in there and see what happens.
But then he also learned from that he's not a blockbuster action movie filmmaker, and he went back to doing independent, challenging, weird stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's Lost Highway also is another great one.
Which another banger of a soundtrack.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing that still to this day confuses the hell out of me is how Twin Peaks, in the time period that it came out in, was a network television show.
It's insane. It's crazy. Because there's the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks, there is a lot of, regular stuff. There's a lot of quirky characters, and silly or funny or unique storylines for those quirky characters. But there's also some incredibly dark stuff, storylines, visuals. I mean, there are visuals that are just absolutely shocking when you think, like Steve just said, that this aired on network television. This was on ABC,
right? Yep.
In 1990 or 1991 or whatever. Like,
crazy
stuff that is just so terrifying, so terrifying that you could never imagine it being on a network. Just prime time, 9 p.m. television slot.
Right. Do we want to watch Step by Step and Family Matters, or
yeah, exactly. Do you want to watch someone
Full House
their face off in the
yeah,
the Black Lodge? Anyway, R.I.P. David Lynch. You were a true visionary. If you're someone who's never seen a David Lynch movie, if you start with one of the movies you've heard me mention, then I can guarantee you that it'll be a movie unlike any movie you've ever seen.
Very true.
With the possible exception of a movie called The Straight Story, which I watched recently because it is streaming on Disney Plus. It is a Walt Disney Picture production, and it is rated G.
He can do that?
That's right, Steve. It is a David Lynch film rated G, and it's great. It's great.
Huh.
It's really good, about a guy whose brother is sick, and he's like an older, very old guy who doesn't have a car, and so he drives his riding lawnmower across state lines, like 200 miles or whatever, to visit his ailing brother. And it's about like the road trip and people he meets along the way, and it's kind of like heartwarming in certain ways. It's also like very relaxing is the way I would describe it. I don't know if there's another movie I would describe as relaxing, but I was just like hanging out, watching it, feeling good. I don't know.
This is
strange to say a feel-good David Lynch movie exists, but it does. It does.
Now we know.
So you can check that out too, but that'll be less shocking to you.
I wasn't sure whether you were I wasn't looking at the rundown, and I was like, is he going there or Garth Hudson? I don't know which.
Oh man, we also lost Garth Hudson today. That happened today, right?
That happened today. The last of the members of the band.
The band passed away. That's very sad.
Yep. So
very sad. And he was 87. That guy.
He was.
Man, wild. So RIPs all over the place. And
hey, you know what?
What?
Something, well, depending on your belief systems, they may be born again, and we know Daredevil will be born again in 2 months.
That's right.
That was a rough segue, but we got there.
We got there, Steve. It's always tough to segue out of an RIP.
It really is. Really is.
Now we're going to talk about Star Wars. How do you get there?
Right.
I don't know. You did it as well as anybody could, Steve. And I congratulate you on even attempting to do so. But yes, last week we got the first trailer, a much anticipated trailer, I would say, for Daredevil Born Again. This is a series, will be on Disney Plus. And for all intents and purposes, it is season 4 of the Daredevil Netflix show, right? Got the whole cast back.
And that was a big question going into it. What is this going to be, and where is this going to be? We had seen Kingpin in Echo.
Hawkeye.
We had seen him in Hawkeye.
And Hawkeye.
Yep. Hawkeye, a very different take on him. Echo, a slightly more kind of coming back around to
definitely
a slightly Disneyfied Netflix version.
Yep.
What Wilson Fisk looked like in this trailer was straight out of what we saw coming out of season 3 of Daredevil.
Yes. And they definitely carried over. I had forgotten at the end of Echo, they teased Fisk getting into politics.
Yeah.
That was like a stinger kind of at the end of Echo. So they're teasing that out. And I guess before we get to in the trailer, I should also say that like this is a series that was announced at a Comic-Con a long time ago. Initially, it was going to be 18 episodes. I think that episode count has been reduced. At some point, they went back and they kind of started from scratch and they started rewriting the entire series, realizing that they weren't doing a good job. And that's when they brought in Karen and Foggy and the other cast members, which was like just a no-brainer to do. Like, why would you ever think you could make another season of Daredevil without the strongest supporting cast in superhero history? I don't know. So and anyway, here's a trailer, and the trailer I was not prepared for how excited the trailer made me.
No, not in any way, shape, or form.
Because it did remind me of the Netflix show. It looked more like the Netflix show than a Disney-ified version of the Netflix show, which is what I was preparing for. But I still am kind of preparing for that to be what it actually is. Like we've been burned by trailers before. Everyone's been burned by a trailer that looked great, and then the movie turns out to be crap, or the whatever. So I still think it's possible that I don't think it's gonna go as hard as the Netflix show.
But anything still go as hard as the Netflix show?
Exactly. But I think that it's clearly seems like they're doing their best to do what Disney can do or is allowed to do.
Right.
And still feel as much like the Netflix show as it can.
Right. We had heard, the returning cast, but also like John Bernthal coming back as the Punisher.
Yeah.
And Frank Castle cannot be played with kid gloves.
Right.
And in this trailer, that was one thing I was worried about when they announced he's coming back. And I'm like, no, that felt like Frank Castle. Like that felt like the character that John Bernthal portrayed prior. It wasn't, held back or restrained. It was raw and it was him.
Yeah. Although we only see him very briefly.
Yeah.
So you never know what his role will actually be in the show. A lot of the supporting cast we only see very briefly. Foggy and Karen. I think there's 2 shots of Karen. There's only 1 shot of Foggy.
Yep.
With Charlie Cox. The trailer is based around Matt Murdock and Wilson Fisk sitting at a table having a conversation, which I think is very interesting. Just knowing, like, we know each other. Mm-hmm. It's like a dichotomy that is absent in a lot of superhero stuff. Just like the villain and the main villain and the main hero being like, we get each other.
Yeah, we
know what each other is up to.
Can you imagine
sit down and have a
like Lex and Clark just sitting having coffee? In a
right,
diner.
I know. Yeah, and talking semi. You know what? I can imagine it with Superman and Lex. I can, but not many other ones.
Right. Batman and Joker, not happening.
Even Batman and Joker, Batman tries to do it in The Killing Joke, and then there's a whole. It doesn't really. Anyway, but even that, doesn't never really felt right to me. So the trailer's based around their conversation, and it's intercut with cuts away to clips of seemingly pretty brutal fight scenes. Screaming, agony, lots of violence, lots of worried faces.
Yeah.
There is a quick shot, apparently I missed this in the trailer, but I just read about it, of a billboard for Harlem's Paradise, which is the club, I believe, that Luke Cage was affiliated with.
I missed
Luke
that
Cage series. Yeah, I missed it too, but I read it. And so that's fueling fan speculation that Luke Cage may appear in some way. And who knows? Maybe they will use this as a way to bring back Luke Cage and Jessica Jones at least as well.
Get Kristen Ritter back.
Please.
Yeah.
Please get Jessica Jones back. So yeah, I don't know, Steve, I don't know that I have anything specific. I feel like I didn't have time to rewatch it right before, so I'm kind of like going on memories, but
I feel like I saw more arm snaps than I have in any Disney production ever in this trailer.
Yeah.
They definitely showed brutality. Like things were raw. There was violence. I don't know. It just felt right. The shots we had of White Tiger, like I think we got 1 or 2 shots of White Tiger. We got a shot of Muse, which
Yep.
I still need to read that Sewell run of Daredevil, which I've heard was utterly amazing. I have a friend who was like, yeah, the Muse is probably my favorite, or their favorite Daredevil villain right now.
Interesting.
And that they were kind of, I don't want to say wasted, but it was a shame that they only got that one run.
Okay.
So,
interesting pick then. If they were only in one run, interesting pick for a series villain.
So, it just looks really, really good.
It does look really good, and I liked. I mean, it is a little bit more comic booky, I think. And I'll even like the two of them sitting down and talking while he's running for mayor, like, is a little more comic booky. The opening of a some kind of safe where he keeps his costumes and having like 6 different Daredevil helmets there or whatever, like, is very comic booky in a way that I liked, though, because we've already seen him show up in She-Hulk and he was wearing the yellow and red. So like,
say, so we know this has to show up. This has to be after She-Hulk.
Most likely.
Well, because wasn't in She-Hulk the tailor shop was the yellow suit was in the tailor shop, right?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Or was that what the hell? What show was that? There was like
he gets a new suit tailored in the Netflix show. See, at one point.
No, there was some MCU. There was something that alluded to, like, we saw the yellow cowl.
Oh, it was. Yes, yeah, it was She-Hulk. Yeah, because there was like a superhero fashion person.
And like in a corner or in something, they like pan
making
through
a
it.
Suit
you see
for him.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So yeah, you're right. Good call. Good call. So yeah, it must be after She-Hulk. And yeah, all the fighting choreography looked really good, but that's, if this is a lot of the fight choreography has been good in shows like Hawkeye and especially Echo. Like Echo had some great fight choreography in it, and that made me think like, oh, Born Again might be pretty good.
Yeah.
And it looks like it is. It looks like it is. I wonder if she will show up. Do you think we'll see Malaka Cox?
Yeah, I would much more. I think we're much more likely to see her than we are to see any of the allusions to She-Hulk.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I doubt
this. This is what we've been talking about, Mike. This is going to be the grounded, like, outside of White Tiger and the weird, like the mysticism around White Tiger.
Yeah,
there wasn't anything that showed in the trailer that is like, timey-wimey, magic-y, whatever.
Yeah. But like, also, as long as they keep Daredevil and his storyline and his quest or whatever, as long as they keep that grounded, feeling like Daredevil, I wouldn't care if She-Hulk shows up for like a conversation. You know what I mean? Or something like that. Or if this is not going to happen. Wouldn't it be great if Spider-Man showed up? Wouldn't that be great?
That would be.
That'd be so great. Tom Holland swings in for a cameo. That'd be great.
Well, yeah.
But then you're like, why isn't he there all the time?
Well, no, because Matt and him already have
a
history.
He knows Peter Parker already. Yeah.
So okay, yeah. Because I was thinking in the comics, Matt and Peter are pretty close. They're closer in age, or more interactable. Whereas Holland and Cox aren't that far off in age, but comparatively, like the way they're playing their characters, So
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
But like, I think my quest for grounded
Richard
is
in the chat's thinking Spider-Man. He thinks you're onto something there.
Oh, you think so?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and welcome to World of War Comics. Thanks for the sub.
All right. Thank you, World War Comics. I would be surprised. I would love it. I would lose my mind if Tom Holland showed up as Spider-Man. I'm not holding my breath. I don't think it's going to happen. I think that's like a.
Oh, you know what it'll be? I think we'll get the Spider-Man cameo, but it'll just be the suit or him swinging somewhere or something to show he's there, but not Holland unmasked in the show.
Yeah. It'll be just like news footage or a picture on the front of the Daily Bugle or something like that of
Spider-Man Menace
is back or something. Yep. Especially if I would take a cameo from Titania Maslany, like not in She-Hulk form.
Right.
You know, they could make that work pretty
Yeah.
easily. But who knows? I mean, he's in the MCU now, so like this stuff is gonna start popping up.
100%.
Unless they just continue to keep him completely isolated. I don't know, but yeah, this trailer was great. It comes out on my birthday, so I'm very excited that I have birthday plans.
What is it? You had a birthday drop
Watching
last year
Daredevil.
too, didn't you? Or no, was it 2 years ago? The Batman.
It was a few years ago when
Yeah.
the Batman came out on my birthday.
We were still doing the
best.
podcast then. Wow.
It's been a long trip, buddy. Still going.
It's a long, strange trip, my friend.
Still going. But now we got Richard Westfall in World War Comics on the bandwagon, and we love having him.
A couple others floating around in the. Looks like there's a couple others floating around watching. So, you know,
Thank you so much.
Maybe Brian's hanging out like usual. Although it is a Tuesday, so who knows?
That's true. Yeah, we're off our regular day. Anyway, moving on from Marvel. This story I saw today. I don't think it. I think it broke today.
No, friend of the pod, Matt Beseda sent it to us, I believe.
Yeah, and I immediately went to Hollywood Reporter, and there it was.
No, immediately both of us were like, bullshit.
Yeah, where did you find that? Yeah, I looked it up. Lo and behold, it's true. We have known for a long time, and we're talking about Star Wars now. We have heard for a long time that Sean Levy has been working on a mystery Star Wars project. Sean Levy, director of, most recently, Deadpool and Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
So no slouch to an action movie for sure. He's done other stuff, bunch of stuff with Ryan Reynolds as well. Just how he got the Deadpool and Wolverine gig. He has been given a Star Wars film. He's been working on it since 2022, along with Jake Tropper, guy who's writing the script. And this has been a mystery project. There's been no news on what this is, although lately I was starting to hear a lot of rumors that this was going to be movie one of a Rey-focused trilogy, starting in present-ish day, and then by the third one, she's like an old lady. Multiple outlets were calling Sean Levy's Rey trilogy as if it was like a fact, and I was like, I don't think that's happening. And it doesn't look like it is, because the Hollywood Reporter is reporting that Sean Levy's mystery Star Wars project has found its lead and is in final negotiations with Ryan Gosling, star Sean Levy's upcoming Star Wars film. If this deal is finalized, the project would likely be fast-tracked into production, making it Levy's next film and the next Star Wars film to go into production. Now, we've said before recently that there is a Lucasfilm has a mystery date of December 17th, 2020. Is there 7?
Yeah.
I think 7.
7. Because 26 is Mando and Grogu.
Yes. Yep. And if there was two Star Wars movies in 2026, that would be shock. Especially since nothing else is.
That would be right back to the mistakes we made before.
Yeah, exactly.
Have we learned nothing? And the answer with Disney is usually no, we haven't.
No, we have not.
Yeah.
So it's unclear what this is. It's unclear when it will take place in the very long and strange Star Wars timeline. THR, Hollywood Reporter, is saying that it will be a standalone film and not connected to the Skywalker saga. And that's pretty much it. I do like Ryan Gosling. THR reports, or part of their article, I should say, pointed out something that I thought also is that it's pretty rare for Star Wars to bring in an A-lister to headline a film. Like a real A-lister. The only time that this article referenced that had happened was getting Liam Neeson to lead Phantom Menace, who had just like won an Oscar for Schindler's List, you know. And I guess like Natalie Portman was a name, and Ewan McGregor was like kind of a name, but they weren't.
Ewan McGregor at that point was like Trainspotting and just coming off Moulin Rouge. Yeah,
McGregor definitely was not an A-lister then, if he even is now. Portman became an A-lister, but I don't think she was considered an A-lister when she took Phantom Menace.
She was well, you know what? She was probably in that same vein of like Oscar Isaac, where they were around and they were known. Like I'd put that as kind of an analog as to how known of a name they were.
That's great. That's a great way to say it. But also, besides Oscar Isaac, you had Daisy Ridley. It was her first movie,
right.
or something like and John Boyega, like relatively like lesser known cast or lesser known stars. Adam Driver at that time, now
he was
huge,
coming off Girls, but that was about it.
Off Girls.
Yeah.
And even look at Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford in the original ones, so it's rare to bring like this dude, this dude is a movie star already. We're going to have him lead the Star Wars film. Now, Steve, you and I, there's no way for us to know what this is. We don't know what this is. What would you like it to be? What would you, if Ryan Gosling is going to be in a Star Wars movie, what kind of character do you think Ryan Gosling is good for? Smuggler, Jedi, Imperial officer, pilot?
What my wish would be?
Yeah, what's your wish?
My wish would be for them to remake the Legacy books, which don't make sense in current canon, in any way, shape, or form. But they could find a way to make something similar work that's set 100 years in the future. And it's Cade Skywalker, who is the great-great-grandson of Luke.
Oh.
Weirdly, Gosling looks oddly like what Cade's comic persona was and what he was portrayed as. But he was basically a bounty hunter that had relinquished his, Jedi heritage, that Force ghosts. Basically, he was down on his luck, not a great person, and ends up over the course of the Legacy comics kind of finding out what his legacy was and kind of coming to terms with being a Skywalker and the whole nine.
Yeah.
Very, very dark, very not broody, but it's a dark run.
Okay.
I think my brain went Blade Runner 2049 when I went there.
Yeah.
So
he's incredible in that movie.
He's got the range to do something like that where it's not good guy, bad guy, whatever. He's that ambiguous.
Yeah. He is a great actor, and he could do anything that they're asking him to do, I believe. My brain, when I think Ryan Gosling in Star Wars, my brain goes to like a Han Solo smuggler type, talking his way out of things, because he's good at the humor as well as, dramatic, action-y kind of things. So for my money, my money's on him being kind of like a smuggler or a scoundrel of some kind.
Richard Westphal was calling for Darth Talon in the Legacy series. That is Darth Talon from Star Wars Legacy 0. But cool. This, if you ever get a chance to read that omnibus, quite good.
Quite good.
Yeah.
Okay. I had seen that character before, and I had heard the name Darth Talon before, but I did not know they went together.
Well, there you go. Now you do.
There I go. Learning something every single day. I think Ryan Gosling is great, and I hope that he is in a Star Wars movie. Because
only if he sings a song about, well, anything.
Because it seems like if he signs on to this, they're going to, make a Star Wars movie. So for that reason alone, I really hope that he signs on to it. Like, you're telling me they're going to fast track this puppy if he signs on the dotted line? Then for God's sake, Ryan, write your name down.
Oh,
Let's get this shit happening, please.
World at War made a very good point in the chat where they're saying, I think Disney's a little desperate to get Star Wars fixed. They need to do something big to get fans to return. And this would be that big. Like, Ryan Gosling is going to draw eyes in. Like, Star Wars is going to draw eyes in.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, because, like, we all know that when, if they say this is episode 10, right? If any movie comes out, this is Star Wars episode 10, the Jedi Who Laughs, or whatever. I don't know. That's a terrible title.
Yeah, it's really
bad,
what
I mean?
Man.
If the general public sees Star Wars episode 10, they're going. Doesn't matter who's in it. They can cast unknowns like Daisy Ridley, and people are going.
Yep.
Force Awakens, still the highest grossing domestic film of all time.
Yeah.
Like, people are going to go. We also know that movies like Solo or Rogue One don't make quite as much money. Rogue One made a bunch of money because it was great. Solo didn't make a bunch of money for a bunch of reasons. But I think one of those reasons is that it just wasn't, it wasn't episode whatever. And we have people that love the movies but don't watch the shows because they're not part of the quote unquote story, whatever. So I think a way to really bridge that gap is to say, yes, this is Star Wars. No, it's not episode 10, but we've got Ryan Gosling. That'll bring people that probably wouldn't have gone if it's not an episode 10. You know what I mean?
Right. And could that break the cycle and allow some of these stories, like you're saying, allow some of the Star Wars stories to allow them to branch out in this galaxy far away like we wanted them to?
Right. If it truly is, because if it truly is a standalone film, and we all know if this movie makes $1 billion,
it's not
they're going to make a sequel to it.
Yeah.
The contract that Ryan Gosling is getting ready to sign definitely has a sequel option in it. There's no way that it doesn't.
100%.
But if this is truly a standalone film and it does well, then you're right. It sets a new template for Star Wars in general. Maybe it's not a trilogy, or maybe he doesn't get a direct sequel, but he shows up in another film and they start universe building that way instead of, here's your classic characters that you're going to see for the next 3 films. And if you don't like it, sorry, you're going to hate the next 3 films.
Right.
This one's got Ryan Gosling. The next one doesn't have Ryan Gosling, but it's got somebody else,
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you said, the best movie that they've made in the Disney era was the second to worst performing with Rogue One.
You're saying Rogue One? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's my opinion, seeing it's my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time, but
I know.
Like, that movie didn't get remotely the plaudits that it deserved.
Yeah.
Because it didn't say episode X.
I feel like for the last 45 seconds or so, I was acting as if I didn't think Rogue One was the best Disney Star Wars movie that they put out, but it definitely is. I don't know why I was like kind of poo-pooing that statement. Like I 100% agree with you. Why am I fighting this?
Yeah, both of us are fans of at least 2 of the sequels, and neither of them are better than Rogue One.
Yeah. I'm more of a fan of all 3 of them than you are, for sure.
That's a fact.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's it. Star Wars, hooray. Star Wars, hooray. Ryan Gosling, please sign your name. Speaking of other galaxies, but not Star Wars galaxies, we got some casting for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. David Krumholtz and Emily Beecham have been cast as Kara Zor-El's parents, expanding the House of L. David Krumholtz, best known for playing Bernard in the Santa Claus franchise. Yep. He's also a small part in Oppenheimer. He's also in 10 Things I Hate About You and a bunch more. Beecham has starred in movies like 28 Weeks Later, Hail Caesar, Cruella, and a lot more as well. They will be playing Supergirl's parents. Spoiler alert, probably in a flashback, because we all know what happened to that planet. Seen it a million times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was me furiously Googling David Krumholtz because I remembered the name and I could not remember what he looked like to save my life.
Same with both of these. When I read the headline, I was like, I know both of those names. I cannot picture what either of them look like.
Yep. And Beecham, I didn't recognize after I saw what she looked like, but I recognized the name.
Yeah. That's cool. And we know that they are changing a bit from the plot of the original comic storyline just to fit a movie. We know Lobo is going to be in this movie. He's not in the original comic. There is a sequence in the book regarding the destruction of Krypton and the aftermath of that. Basically saying that the planet was blown into chunks, and the chunk that Supergirl and her family lived on was big enough to survive for a while in space. And all they had to do to keep it habitable. Habitable? Habitable? Habitable.
Roads.
I'm gonna pull that one. That's the pull. That's the Instagram reel.
Limit.
Which was anyway, the story was incredibly intense and dark and tragic. It's kind of like doing what they can do, knowing that it's not going to last much longer. So, if they try to do that in the movie, that'll be wild. My guess is that they may do some lesser version of that, or this is just kind of like a flashback of some kind for their parents. I doubt that these will be large roles in the movie, but still cool. That movie's already filming, which I'm excited about. Comes out 2026. Steve, it's time for comics.
It is time
Do you
for
want to do
comics.
reviews first, or do you want to do our return to an old segment first?
Let's return to an old segment first. I kind
All
of
right,
just pulled
folks,
a you and jammed that all together into one word.
It's all right. We said this on our one of like our year-end wrap-up episode. I think we talked about bringing this back. We used to do a segment on this show in the early days called Kickstarter Call Out, and we got rid of it, or we just stopped doing it kind of because it's a lot of work.
We stopped doing it after your first Kickstarter because we kept calling out your first Kickstarter, and then I don't think we ever picked it back up after.
I thought about that. I thought we did one or two after,
We might
but
have,
then
it fell off.
It fell off. And we're not saying we're going to do it every week, but if we see something that we want to shout out, we're going to shout it out. I saw this going around on Blue Sky a little bit. Tonight, we are calling out a project called Public Defender. And this is a comic book written by writer Jeff Schiller and drawn by a plethora of artists. This is a book about, it's kind of like a superhero satire book about a stoner who was bitten by a radioactive lawyer, giving him the weird appearance of a superhero. Like his skin around his eyes is like a red band, so he just looks like he's wearing a mask all the time, which is pretty funny. Everyone thinks he's a superhero because of the way he looks, but doesn't seem like he really wants to have anything to do with that lifestyle. He just wants to sit in his apartment and smoke weed all the time. This book is an anthology of short stories written by Schiller with different artists on each story. Artists include, and I'm sorry, I'm definitely going to screw up some of these names, Nima Surratt, Ignacio Di Miguelo, Jeff Folsom, David Lujan, Jenny Fleming, Adrian Kolaric, Claire V. Gray, Lucas Cobell, Colton Mastic, Luca Chidi, Philip Quick, Flops, Gerard von Stoddard, Gulherm Lindenberg Mendez, Angelo D. Innocentis, and Raven Schiller. Steve, I feel like it's been a long time since I've had to say names that I can't pronounce on this show.
I feel like we're back to the Steve needs to pronounce names thing, Mike.
Really just made up for that in a big way. Made up for the amount of time it's been since I've mispronounced a name by mispronouncing half of those. Sorry to all you wonderful artists that are working on this cool book, Public Defender. So this is a cool idea. One writer, short comics, all in one book. So it is kind of like an anthology, different art. You can check out we'll link to it in the show notes to the Kickstarter page. We can do that, right, Steve?
Yeah, I got it. I can do that. I have the power.
Yes, I know you could. But all these artists are on have very different styles. You can kind of check out a few of those on the actual page. The wide-ranging looks of the book, so you can see how different artists interpret drawing the same character, which is very cool. And as of this recording, the project only has 10 days left. They're only a little over halfway to their goal, so they definitely need a boost. So check out Public Defender on Kickstarter from writer Jeff Schiller, and throw him some money. Throw him some books. It's a cool idea. It's a fun idea. Fun and funny with a lot of awesome artwork.
Yeah,
and some cool
the art
awards.
is pretty cool. Like if you pull up the Kickstarter page, it's kind of got panels from each of the different artists.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wide range of styles, and just watching the random stoner that looks like Raphael from the Turtles is just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. So check out Public Defender, and that is the first Kickstarter call out, 2025. It's back, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Back. Ready to do some reviewing?
I think so. For the first time in a while, we both got the same book.
first time in a while, we both have a review.
Yeah, also
and
true.
for the first time in a while.
And we also picked it up on the same day at the
same time.
So
fated.
Yeah.
Fated this review is.
Funky Town knows that we do exist as separate people. For a while, I think they thought we were the same person because we were never in the shop at the same time.
They thought I was just wearing a giant Steve suit when I came in, and then I'd leave and unzip it to reveal my true form. Which would also mean, if we were the same person, that means that every episode of this podcast is completely scripted, and I record both of them separately and use some kind of modulator. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have to, even like this would have to be completely scripted out.
You'd have to like record you, because I'm the one that can see the chat. You'd have to like record you.
Yeah.
And then react in
right.
real time.
Oh yeah, it's live. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, this would require rehearsal. Like way more than a week's worth of rehearsal. So they're right there, you know.
Yeah,
it can't be.
We
true.
got it.
It can't possibly be true. Maybe it's true.
It might be true.
Anyway, Time Slide.
Yep.
Marvel Time Slide.
Written by Steve Fox, art by Ivan Fiorelli, colors by, see, I even mispronounced the name. Colors by Frank DeMarta, letters by Joe Caramagna.
We got a variant cover, which I guess I didn't realize we had a variant cover.
Yep.
But it's saying variant cover right there. I was like, ooh, this is going to be a Phoenix book.
No.
Nope.
Not
prepared for what happened at all on page 1. I was like, oh, this is just not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Right. So if you can't imagine, Time Slide involves, well, it's an X book, judging by the variant cover even. But it involves everyone's two favorite or two most prominent time traveling mutants in one Nathan Summers and one Lucas Bishop. So
that is right. Bishop and Cable are recruited by a mutant called Tempest.
Yep.
Who controls time, apparently, and is a time jumper. They have to stop a being named Vacuna, who is going through important moments in mutant history and eating the moment from the timeline, like absorbing it so it doesn't exist anymore. And if they do this enough, then the timeline in general will completely unravel. If they do it so often that the timeline is unable to like fix itself, basically, I think is what it says.
Yeah, so this all ties into the Children of the Vault, which was the ongoing. It's an ongoing thing through the X books that these guys, they're in the how to describe Children of the Vault. They have effectively unlimited time and unlimited amounts of goes at time to try and figure out and come up with the worst things possible for the X-Men.
Okay.
Which is why they're able to create this being Vacuna, who is effectively eating time, which ultimately the goal is to eliminate the X gene, because it always is for some reason. It's an X book. We're all in the same world. Everything's going backwards, and we're doing it all again. But
everyone's always trying to eliminate that gene.
Yeah. It's
not that gene and that gene, but the other gene also.
Right.
Both genes.
Sometimes they like the other gene. Sometimes she's trying to eat worlds and stuff.
Like in this cameo, speaking of Jean, one of the moments that they go to erase is in a confrontation with Dark Phoenix. So you get some cool cameos there for a split second. And when I say split second, I mean split second. This book moves really fast.
But very like quickly. That cameo, you see a classic moment, but with Ms. Marvel.
Yes. So it's like a different.
It's like a weird alteration of something has happened
like a
to the
timeline or something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it's
I thought it was okay.
I thought it was good enough.
Yeah.
Like
it was certainly good for. It was good concept, and it was good for the amount that they did in this one issue, because like I said, it moves really fast because they have to tell, and it's a complete story. Like I don't know what number 2 is, because this kind of gets wrapped up at the end of number 1.
Yeah, kind of.
And I feel like I was reading it thinking like, is this a one shot? Because like they're really cramming an entire story into this thing. And it's moving so quick, and it is definitely like I'm not someone who has read X books recently, so for me it was a little like, okay, I guess this is what's happening, and I'm just gonna go with it. And I don't know some of these characters, I don't know some of what they're referencing, but I'm just gonna go with it. So I was like a little confused, although I get, despite being confused maybe about like the reasons why these events are occurring, I still was like, I understand Bishop, I understand Cable, they're traveling through time. I get the concept enough. Like I don't need to know why. I guess I'm just reading to see the cool pew pews and the time jumps and things like that.
Right. And you're seeing time jumps to like moments you knew happened in X history type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Apocalypse makes a cameo because that's his emergence is clearly an important time in mutant, important point in mutant timeline, things like that.
Oh, really? The fact that they exist then?
Yeah,
minor details.
Minor details.
But yeah, the art I really enjoyed. The story was fine.
Yep.
It
was just like a little complex. It was like, like David Lynch's Dune. They're just trying to do too much in.
Well, the thing was, I don't know if you
probably more successful than David Lynch's Dune.
Probably. The concept of this time slide event is effectively them foreshadowing what's happening in the world of Marvel moving forward. So if you saw that list that Tempest and the two were looking at,
yes, it made no sense to me whatsoever.
So One World Under Doom and like all those things, I guess, are events that are happening this year.
Okay.
Whether it be, in a certain line of books or whatever. So it's kind of, I guess, previewing the future.
All right. That makes sense. Because it does kind of, I also thought that too. I was like, this has got to be like setting up like an event or something. It does have that kind of feel to it. But certainly fun. Like it was fun. And, Cable and Bishop, I like Bishop well enough. Like, but they're not characters that I like super connect with necessarily. So I was reading it for, to see what happened, but also like I wasn't like, I had no emotional connection to this book at any point.
No.
Necessarily. I wasn't worried about the characters or concerned for them or rooting for them really, because I just figured they were going to win. But yeah, time slide. And as you said, you believe issue 2 comes out this week?
Yeah,
cool.
I'm curious what they'll do with that Vicuna character as well.
Yeah.
Like everything else in the book has been recurring over time, but no pun intended. But that'll be a new wrinkle, whether or not, they take that farther or where that goes. But it's an X book, so most likely it'll come back at some point.
Yeah, it'll come back and be even crazier. Speaking of your local comic book store, I forgot to write down. Usually I go through the list and I write down all the books that I want to mention. I forgot to do that before we started recording this week, which is crazy because I've done it every week. So I'm just going to kind of go on the fly here as far as what books are going to be appearing in your local comic book store. Now, keep in mind, we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast that the main distributor of comics, Diamond, is under bankruptcy and has not really been fulfilling their orders or promises for the last few weeks.
Yeah, so this is a list of things that are supposed to be showing up in your comic book store.
Exactly. Thank you, Steve. Absolute Wonder Woman number 4. Amazing Spider-Man number 66. Archie is Mr. Justice number 2. Barbarella number 3. Black Canary Best of the Best number 3. Can't wait to get that. Black Hammer Spiral City number 3. Blade Red Band number 4. Catwoman number 72. DC Horror Presents number 4 of 4. Detective Comics number 1093. Dick Tracy number 7. Doctor Doom and Rocket Raccoon number 1. What a pairing. Drawing Blood number 7. Fantastic Four number 28. The Flash number 17. G.I. Joe Real American Hero number 313. Green Arrow number 20. Grimm Fairy Tales number 92. Harley Quinn number 47. Helverine number 2. Hexiles number 3. House of Slaughter number 29. Howl number 1. Iron Man number 4. Justice League Unlimited number 3. Kid Venom number 4. What else we got here? Metamorpho the Element. Every time I say, speaking of David Lynch, every time I say Element Man, I think I should be saying Elephant Man.
Yeah.
Which is not the name of this character that's been around for decades. But anytime I say Metamorpho the Element Man, I think I'm saying it wrong because I think I should be saying Elephant. Not the case. Mystique, number 4. Papa Duke, number 1. Phoenix, number 7. Pinup Apocalypse, number 1. Power Girl, number 17. Power Rangers Prime, number 3. Savage Dragon, number 275. Scarlet Witch, number 8. Space Ghost, number 9. Star Trek, number 28. Star Wars Battle of Jakku, Last Stand, number 4. Superman, number 22. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Naruto, number 2. Terminator, number 4. Toxic Avenger, number 4. Ultimate Spider-Man, 13. Uncanny X-Men, number 9. Void Rivals, 16. World Tree, number 12. Wolverine Revenge, number 4. Wonder Woman, 17. And You Won't Feel a Thing, number 1. Bam. Long list of books that may or may not show up in your local comic book store this week. I'd say it's better chance you'll see them if they're a DC book. Less chance you'll see them if they're a Marvel book.
There is a one-shot X-Men Xavier's Secret.
Ooh, what is Xavier's Secret?
I have no idea what Professor X's secret is, but apparently we can find out in a one-shot.
Can find out.
Oh, yeah, they do have a second printing on West Coast Avengers number 1 if Marvel decides to give us books, too.
Oh, fun.
But, yeah, anything jumping at you on this one?
Honestly, I just read it so fast that I wasn't really thinking about it. I mean, Black Canary is on my pull list, so I'm excited about that for sure.
Dr. Doom and Rocket Raccoon, you grabbing that?
I'm interested in that.
I'm at least going to thumb through it.
What is that?
Yeah. Hyde Street number 3 is coming out as well. I don't know if anyone took up my review to heart and picked up a copy, but that is a weird horror book that is weird and horror-y and good.
Mm-hmm.
The Ultimate Spider-Man is just that's still cooking with gas. So I'm gonna trust my dollars to Jonathan Hickman and continue to read that.
Cool. I just started. What?
Go ahead. If you're talking about something you read, I'll follow up with you.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say that I am reading the Afra book that you let me borrow, and I just purchased and started reading Gail Simone's Red Sonja Volume 3.
Nice.
Of 3. And the first 2 were excellent, so kind of into those right now. Plus, almost completely caught up on all my single issues that are just have been sitting in the pile for so long. So feeling good about that.
I am down to just Energon for my single issues. So
nice.
Floppies are almost caught up. I did go out and pick up issue number 1 of Ultimate Wolverine.
You did?
I was able to find a copy. Actually, I wasn't even in the city when I grabbed it, and it was the only one they had. Otherwise, I would have called you and said, "Hey, do you want this?"
I was hoping to get one at Funky Town, but the books just haven't come in.
Right. Someday you'll get one. Someday.
Not through no fault of their own.
Yeah, they had one book, and it was a variant. Like, it's an Omega Red cover. Wow. And I'm like, sure, whatever.
Getting it. Nice.
It is what it is. So I was not nearly as lucky as getting the Chichetto black suit variant of Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But is good. Is worth picking up. Is a definite. It's not the story I expected, but I don't know how to describe it without giving things away. I think it's a known fact that he is the new Winter Soldier.
Right. Yeah.
But beyond that, it's it feels right for what they did to it, and there's enough, just like they've done with the rest of the Ultimate Universe. There's enough callback to things and things that are why he ends up in this situation. So it works quite well for what it is. I still want to find that A cover because it goes hard. But
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, it's well worth picking up, well worth reading.
Awesome. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. And with that, I think that's all we got. I don't have anything else, Steve, unless you got something else.
No, I don't. I think we didn't talk Skeleton Crew, did we? So
we can do that. We can send the non-skeleton crewers away and talk about the finale for a little bit.
Absolutely. So if you are taking off now, as I mentioned earlier, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/the Multiverse Report. That's shouldn't be hard to say after 300 plus episodes, but here we are.
Should be.
The Jesus, now I'm gone. Check us out on socials at the Multiverse Report, and send us emails at multiversereport@gmail.com if you feel like sending us something long form and waxing poetic on all of our goings on in the podcast. If you are watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and sign up for notifications, because I can't remember how you do that, but I'm sure it'll be a button that you're looking at if you're watching us. And then review us in your podcatcher of choice. So thanks to everybody in the chat, including a couple the new listeners and watchers, and World of War Comics and Richard as always. So that's all I got.
If any of you listening or watching live right now have not seen the finale of Skeleton Crew and want to preserve any spoilers for it, you should jump right now, because we're going to start talking about spoilers for finale of Skeleton Crew. I can't imagine that we're going to go super in depth. I feel like it was like a lifetime ago that I watched.
It does seem like it was a year ago.
But we don't want to spoil anything for you if you don't want it to be spoiled. So this is your friendly neighborhood spoiler warning. And here we go, talking about finale of Skeleton Crew in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Loved it.
Oh, it was great.
Spoiler alert. I loved it.
Yeah.
Great.
They landed the plane.
Big time. Big time landed the plane.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Yeah. A bit of an abrupt ending, I thought.
Yeah.
There was no denouement. It was like, the action's over and KB's okay, and that's it. We're done. Out. We didn't even find out what happened to Jod. Like, he was just like left surveying the wreckage. Assumedly, they tried to arrest him after that. Did he get arrested or did he escape? We don't know. I kind of like that we don't know. But I'm surprised that we didn't get another moment showing one of those two things happening, or showing the, that's the, I always forget his name, the X-Wing pilot that's been a recurring character in some of these shows.
Carson
Teva. Having a cameo from him walk out and like thanking the kids for something, like some kind of like,
at the same time, though, part of me is like, no, like everything is completely separate.
No, I agree. Like, I don't mind that it didn't happen, and I don't mind the way that it, but I felt like for a Disney Star Wars production, I was surprised that there wasn't like just a little tag at the end of like them all hugging or, getting some kind of recognition. But I guess if you go too far, you have to start dealing with the fallout of AT-AT being exposed to the galaxy, and maybe they don't know what that is yet.
Right.
Makes sense.
So I think I said it did I say it to you this weekend?
I don't know. Maybe.
It was either you or a friend Adam, that maybe AT-AT becomes the funding for the Final Order.
Oh, you did mention that to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That popped into my head, and I'm like, that's an idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's realistic or if it makes sense or anything, but it popped into my head. So,
I mean, the galaxy's about to get an influx of cash. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
I really loved it. I thought it was really great. I like how they purposely gave all the kids something to do in the final confrontation. Spotlight on Wim and Fern.
Yep.
But still, they all served a purpose. They all still helped each other. The parents being the ones that had to pull the lever to take the barrier down was cool.
But the parents having to listen to the kids about how to do it.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah, I love that the kids were front and center the whole time.
Yep.
And we got kind of a quick rundown of Jod's backstory, which I thought was cool.
Yep.
And did you notice the credit sequence seemed to be depicting that?
No, I missed that.
Did you notice that?
No.
The credit sequence was, usually it has just gone to the classic blue letters over stars, But for this one, it went to like colorful, animated or like drawn depictions of what seemed like to me a Jedi finding a little boy and training him, and then that Jedi being killed by maybe was an Inquisitor or something. Like there was a red lightsaber there, which is kind of the story he told. He was found, taken in by a Jedi, trained by a Jedi in the wild, and then they hunted her down.
Right.
And he realized that nothing mattered, and I'm going to be a pirate.
Which,
so I thought that was interesting.
If that's true or not.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So.
Exactly. But I did think the credits. Somebody tell me if I'm crazy. I thought the credits were picking that. If anyone else out there noticed that.
I'm just glad SM33 is good. He's
Sorry,
back.
say that again.
I said I'm just glad SM33 is okay.
I knew he was gonna be okay. He's a droid. You can fix any droid. The speeder bike chase through the woods at the end. I was like, this is straight up ET, man.
100%.
This is ET.
But having his
in a
dad
way that
be
was
that
great.
excited, that was great.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
They said Amblin,
so
and it was Amblin.
It was Amblin. It was Goonies. It was ET. And it was motherfucking Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, and like that Star Wars isn't Amblin, but you know what? It felt like
it.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
And Star Wars can feel like a lot of different things. Rogue One does not feel like Attack of the Clones. Does not feel like The Mandalorian. You know, like these are things that have different feels, but there's just something about it when it clicks and when it doesn't click. And not all things click in the right way for certain people or for Star Wars fans, but for me, this one clicked and was like, yep, Star Wars through and through.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not you know, it's not a paint by numbers kind of franchise. You kind of got to understand it. You got to understand how it looks and feels and moves and the colors of it. And, you know, you have to understand that if you're telling a story in the prequel era versus if you're telling a story in the original trilogy era or the sequel era, like there's slight differences. But you can't just walk in and expect to just by default make something that audiences think feels like Star Wars.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, and I think part of that was down to something I don't know if we really touched on, but Jude Law really, like all of the actors absolutely like killed these portrayals.
Yeah.
Like Jude Law
was excellent. Yep. I would love to see his character again.
Yeah. And I think we will. Like, they left it ambiguous enough that
they certainly did. And there's rumors of a season 2. I read some article. Nothing's confirmed. And it bordered on one of those articles that's like, yeah, of course, if they're asked if they want to make a season 2, of course they're going to say yes. Like, that's not news. Like, of course they want more money. But it was John Watts and I guess his producing partner or writing partner saying that they're kind of dreaming of a season 2. And part of the fun is that the kids are played by kid actors, and those kid actors are going to grow up. So it's possible that we could see them in other things that take place in the future, which I think is very cool. You know, the thought of that.
Yeah.
They could make a Star Wars movie 10 years from now and just have it take place 10 years after the events of Skeleton Crew, and that those characters could be in it. You know, it's like those kids could be potentially playing these characters for a very long time.
Right.
You know, longer than Mark Hamill has played Luke Skywalker, which is a very long time.
That is crazy to think.
But these kids are younger, so could even be longer. Anyway, I would love that. I think that would be cool. And what was the other thing? Or they could pop up somewhere else if we don't get a season 2.
Yeah.
You know, they could see another show, or Mandalorian takes place around the same time. So who knows where they could be? But you just love when Star Wars gives you like a new fun bunch of characters that are part of the canon, part of the lore all of a sudden, and just immediately lovable.
Yep.
It just feels good. It feels good.
Mullen.
And that's all I got to say about Skeleton Crew.
No, and now we're just waiting for Andor.
Waiting for Andor. Name of my next album. Waiting for Andor.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that
April, right?
Is that your February songs concept for this year?
Yeah.
It's all literally just songs about what you hope will happen in Andor season 2.
Yeah. Yep. The most almost immediately dated album time.
That's great.
You can have fun listening to this for 1 month. And then yeah, so that's it. So thanks for sticking around if you're still here. And if you are still here, you should now do all the things that Steve said you should do when the other people left, when the uncool people. Don't tell him I said that though. Keep that between us. You that real cool one. They'll never find out because they left. They're not listening. So you just gotta not tell them. Like us on social media. We've been getting a lot of new followers on Blue Sky. Thank you very much. If you are someone that is following us from Blue Sky, you can check us out there. We're also on Threads and Instagram. But Steve, I gotta tell you, I'm getting real sick of social media. Real sick of it. To a point where I'm considering abandoning it forever, despite having responsibilities to promote things that I do. So I probably won't, but I really want to. So I guess I'm telling you, follow us on those things, but don't expect a ton of content because the world's crazy and I don't like looking at it all the time.
Right.
That makes sense.
If anything, I'm stuck in a Blue Sky rabbit hole because they seem to be the least affected. So
I agree, and there's a lot of great comic book.
There's a great comic content there.
Great comic book community. So
that's the word I was looking for. Community.
Yeah. So we'll definitely be there. Who knows where else we'll be, but follow us on socials. Send us an email if you need anything. Like and subscribe. Share. Tell your friends about us. If you think we're doing a good job, let us know. Share something that we post on social media. All that helps quite a bit. And that's all I got. So until next time, as the two suns set over the burnt corpses of Owen and Baru Lars, we say thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the multiverse.